All right, they got the TSA supposedly coming into the airports on Monday, and this is part of that big freeze I told you is coming, and the replay of the Ice Age as your mastodons are hatching or giving birth, whatever. And the mastodon is going to be tying to your 18 to 22 month gestation on the elephant. And then your 22 is being shown on the 48 right now on the Strait of Hormuz and Iran and these things. And then also you have a 22 clock with Barron in 2028 with the 26 on 9/11. And that's tying into that 22-26 clock that got into a long time ago. And you're in that little alphabet zone, but that alphabet zone and the diabetes and such and the Ozempics and these bee stings and shit going around, well, it's all gonna make sense soon enough. The big freeze and the so-called passport is probably gonna be your ID in the future, or for your real ID system that's coming to travel from state to state and such. And as this United States becomes divided, you may have to show your ID to travel across state lines or whatever. And these truck stops that they're building, those are like car stops, and they have like a big parking lot just ready for the cars to be around up there. But either way, and then they're filming every person that passes through and all this other stuff that's going on. But the freeze and the ice age and this lockdown and the Y2K ready and all those things, it's all overlapping and playing out right now and stacking. And your gas is going to be going. Some of you will walk out, some of you will run, as the Iran, all these things stack up for you as a critical race, and that race of salvation that Paul likens it to and all that stuff. Okay, so the passports and the ice age and the beast system and the heads of the beast and all these things, and Texas and that Lone Star State. It could be where if you want to go to Texas, you might just have to have that ID system, or to get out of Texas, you have to have the ID system, or these kinds of flip-flops and plays and however they're going to go. But we see these things in Europe and pretty much all over the world. Everybody has a passport to travel from place to place, and the Europe and the baker and the butler, all those things are tying together, and then hanging yourself, and that's where the people are doing this, that, and the other. And they're basically hanging themselves with the snake and the serpent as it's constricting around them. And then your so-called Jiu-Jitsu is lining up at your Gracie mansion, and these Gracies are showing, but that's part of that truth and grace and all those things. And the Gracie is the one who brought that ground wrestling and the ground and pound and the gamma rays on that way, where you're getting Vaseline all up, you're getting your underwear on, getting your gloves out, and you're about to go wrestle some dude and have him sweat all over you and shit. That's like pretty gay in the old definition. But either way, so we'll see all this little jiu-jitsu, snake constricting, and these things play out in some ways. And then also your nut sacks, your figs, your fags and such, for that figment of that amalgamation, those are going to probably shrivel up as you give them those RNA changers and whatever else. It can be a stack where you get that, and then maybe the people who get the Ozempic or whatever, that's where they're saying like Jelly Roll's thing got bigger when he lost weight. It didn't get bigger, it just came into fucking view first off. But anyways, they're all putting it all together. And those donuts got that little hole in there for your little AI, the AI and all that stuff. And that's the Illuminati and the 3 are 1, and you know, either way. But yeah, the Freeze, the Mr. Freeze, and the Batman, and and where Trump is playing multiple characters. He's the Penguin, he's the Batman, he's the Bruce Wayne, he's the Arnold Schwarzenegger, or Schwarzenegger, okay? All these things have been pre-programmed and all that stuff. So when it's just time, you're triggered as you got the symbiotic relationship with this Adam and that cell multiplying. So I'd expect major points of transportation areas to have the passport system implemented, or that real ID for the Israel ID and that real lid, and the jamming and jarring of these things and that cure, the closing up, and that's where it's been growing and flowering and all those things. And now it's time to pick a harvest for the wheat and tares and wheat and tears and the floodwaters, all those things stacking up. And remember that Noah brought 2 of all the beasts, so-called, and then 7 of the other kind, and all these things going on. So, or he was told 7 and 2, and then 2 by the Lord God and by God. And these things are different things that we've gotten into in the past long ago. But either way, this is where the beasts are rescued. There's some that are left behind as far as the floodwaters. There's the beasts that are taken in, that are operating in the lower chakra, 2 of every kind. And then there is the Noah, the Noah, and that's the No, the shortening for the number and the abbreviation, the numbering of the men, and the 666. We're gaining the wisdom and all those things as you're hearing the trumpets, and the trumpets, piss sound, and all those other things, and the trumpeties and whatever else. So, the Big Freeze and the changing of America, and this flip-flop in the reality that America has been in, and this test of times and whatever else. This is where something has been played out from the 50s to the 2000s basically, and it's kind of being developed, wrapped up, and bound. But you got to understand that the 50s through the 2000s, this millennium place that we're in, is was shown in a certain way and projected a certain way, where your Illuminati, the good and evil, the devil's music, the devil's lettuce, as the devil led you into the church. Okay, so the church isn't supposed to be on every corner. It's not supposed to be being taught or however they're being done. And this is where we can see a separation of the church and state and the so-called one world religion, to where the new America comes out, to where you can't wear your burqa, or you can't wear your Jesus shirts, or you can't wear this shit that professes your so-called religion in the public sector. Okay, because all these are part of those lies that divide man. And then you stand on your God, he stands on his God. Each one kills people. The Christian God says you got to kill your firstborn. Moses was a killer. Paul was a killer. They're just worshiping a bunch of killers. Allah was a killer. All these things are going on. Okay, and then your kings of today, the Elvis, the people, they're all involved with 13 to 16-year-olds when they're 20 plus or whatever. And this is where y'all are all building up the hardness in your own hearts. You all did all the same stuff that you are coming down on the next generation for, and whatever else is wicked. But either way, folks, that freeze is coming. And that freeze, when you do that plasma donation and getting it back in, put back into, it starts freezing your veins and shit. That's kind of where we're going into now, is that sunlight and the plasma rays and all those things are starting to hit the earth. And it takes 8 minutes, and you're in that 8 minutes as the 8th year on the woman clothed in the sun is now. And then you have the 8th year of dawn coming up as this 8th rain, and then all these little different overlays the clock knocks again and all that shit again. But either way, it's not a puma. And the twins, where they don't look the same, all this shit's all coming. All right, so y'all just get ready for it, because the Y2K ready for it is lining up as your windows into heaven are closing and opening, and Earth 1.0 and Web 1.1 and 2 and all that stuff is going to kind of go to a rest in a way. And then you have your Web 3.0 giving birth, and your crypto for your tomb, and your Tomb Raider ties into your Tom Brady, and then your Logan Paul, and then the Jack Paul, the 2 brothers that way. And the Paul has the AU and the gold, and he's the one who acts the Jesus and all that kind of stuff. So the Jesus ties to your tomb and the crypto and all those things going in right now. Oh, man. Either way, the Tom's a twin. So this twin raider can tie into Elon, or these people saying they're going to pay for the TSA, or this is where the freeze is coming, where eventually the ice is coming in to take out the TSA, and the TSA is also tied into the Trump essay, and the essay for the IC and all those things. But your Slurpee, your IC, all those things will be playing out in another way. What else? What else do I want to get into? We'll just end it here, folks. Oh yeah, the SAT and that test for that exam, and that exam is coming, and the meteors are blasting all over the place. You got your 3i Atlas that broke apart. So either way, we're going to end it here, folks.